Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. There's no doubt in my mind I will never deny that Trump entering the world of politics created more division. But here's where I disagree with the popular narrative. The media, most leftists, a lot of independents, and even some Republicans will tell you that division, well, it stemmed from Donald Trump. It was Trump who did that, he's the problem. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it was more the reaction to Donald Trump that caused all of the division. You can argue that, of course, that's then Trump's fault, but I personally don't view it that way because I think that the other side acted with a purposeful dishonesty. They knew exactly what they were doing, but anyways, the point that I'm making is the mere existence of Donald Trump divided people into two categories, pro-Trump and anti-Trump, and of course there's no middle ground there. Those groups cannot get along. We've seen families break up because of it. We've seen leftists completely lose their minds, and a new diagnosis known as Trump derangement syndrome spawn out of all of it. Trump divides people into two camps, and that's just a fact. Now the question is there a remedy to it? Well, people certainly thought so back in 2020. Joe Biden, Scranton Uncle Joe, was supposed to be that miracle cure. Let's just elect this goofy old man into office and he'll get us all together. But boy, that didn't work at all. Joe Biden ended up being a very, very divisive piece of work, I'll tell you that. But in the end, ironically enough, probably not in the way that they intended, Joe Biden might actually be the unifier in chief that he promised to be. Just let me repeat, again, not in the way that they intended. No, I'd say in a very unfortunate way if you're Joe Biden. Joe Biden is managing to unify the nation in one thing and one thing alone, and that's hatred of Joe Biden and his horrible administration. I can't believe it. I mean, it's a real interesting kumbaya moment as the radical left and Trump supporters and Biden protesters on the other side of the street come together to yell a chant in beautiful harmony, beautiful symbiotic synchronization. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. Joe Biden has become the great unifier against everything Joe Biden. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so I wasn't kidding. This is a clip that's got everybody talking. Here you have pro-Hamas protesters on one side of the street and then pro-Trump supporters on the other side of the street getting into a synchronized chant. Both sides chanted, "Let's go, Brandon." I can't believe it. I actually can't believe it. You see exactly what I mean, right? We're all together in this. We're all together in the belief that Joe Biden sucks. That Joe Biden is possibly the worst president, certainly of my lifetime, but also people who lived through the Jimmy Carter days. I mean, this guy can't win over anyone. The only people who are thoroughly in the Joe Biden camp are those who have identified as a Democrat since probably the 1970s. You know, those old Democrats with this very nostalgic view who still see Joe Biden as the young, trailblazing senator that he once was. You know, I'm not going to take it away from Joe. He was a very skilled politician, and I understand why in a certain way he's always had such a cult following. You know, he used to be a pretty decent speaker. I wouldn't call him eloquent, but he had a great way of conveying a message. And he seemed real, he seemed authentic, he seemed willing to say things that other politicians were scared to say. You know, he branded himself as a working class man, just a regular guy from Scranton. But obviously that isn't the same Joe anymore. Joe Biden isn't working class Joe. Joe Biden is billionaire elitist puppet Joe. He's the guy who's a former shell of himself, an empty vessel that's currently being puppeted around and controlled by the shadowy elite, the shadowy cabal behind the scenes. And obviously most people get that. You know, the vote blue no matter who people will obviously never get that, but regular people, people who can see and people who can hear clearly, have all come to the realization, you know, 3.5 years of Joe Biden, or rather 3.5 years of President Joe Biden, has been 3.5 too many years of sleepy, creepy President Joe Biden. He's no longer working class Uncle Joe from Scranton. He is damaged political goods. And then, of course, meanwhile, on the flip side, well, there's a man who's an actual billionaire who you would think is the elitist, who's connected and controlled by those at the very top pulling the strings, but the opposite is true. Donald Trump somehow, ironically, paradoxically, That's a little bit of a tough word to say, paradoxically. Well, I guess you could call him a blue-collar billionaire, a working-class billionaire. He gets it. He's just like you. And that's the beauty of Trump. He's not an elitist Harvard grad who talks down at you like Ben Shapiro. Me. I'm so smart and you're so stupid. No, Trump is just a guy who gets it done. He's just a guy who walks in and says, hey, this place looks like a pigsty. Let's clean it up, shall we? That's literally it. And that's really all people want. That's why Donald Trump can travel to Michigan on a workday relatively early in the day and have this many people show up during one of his tarmac events.
USA! I ask this all the time, and it never happens. It's very sad, actually. But I ask it all the time, it never happens. I want the press to take their cameras and turn them around.
People are going crazy for Donald Trump. That's the reality. Regular people. I mean, the polar opposite is true for Joe Biden. He is, frankly, detested. And as I mentioned earlier, I really think that Joe Biden, and in a way the Democrat Party, are becoming the sworn enemy of the middle and working class, the enemy of productivity, the enemy of hard work. They have become the party of the elite, and they've left it all for the taking, and boy, it seems like Trump is taking, I'll tell you that. Again, we come back to the same conversation we've been having. This supposed Biden surge, it was a media push-pull manufactured surge. Reality continues to settle in with some of the best pollsters. This time Emerson. Over the last couple of election cycles, Emerson has been pretty much one of the closest or one of the most accurate pollsters. Well, they just released a slew of results from across the most important battleground states, and this data tells us what to expect in a three-way race, where supposedly RFK Jr. was to take points away from Donald Trump to the benefit of Joe Biden. Well, not so sure. The first state on the list really is the biggest uplifting news for me. Wisconsin has been mightily close. I mean, Wisconsin has been a little bit scary, and to be honest with you, I thought this was going to be the state that was going to go hard for Trump considering how close it's been compared to Pennsylvania and Michigan, but it's been slow to move. I mean, the needle hasn't moved much, but now Emerson is showing that Donald Trump potentially has a +5 commanding lead in the state of Wisconsin in a three-way race. They're also showing Pennsylvania, Trump has a +4 lead, North Carolina a +9, Nevada +5, Michigan +1, Georgia +6, and Arizona +4. Essentially, it continues. Trump is leading in every single swing state in the three-way race. The reality is, the people love Trump, regular people. Here are some voters speaking to CBS News in Michigan.
The economy was it was booming under Donald Trump, period. You can't even deny that in no way, shape, or form. And one of the reasons you saw basically wages not only go up, but you saw that profits went up.
They think he's a millionaire. If he's a billionaire, he must have some business sense. That's the bottom line.
More and more, it seems like there's a lot of nostalgia supporting the Trump years. It seems like people are looking back at what they had and thinking 2020 was a big mistake, which I'm hoping for. I think that's the most logical outcome here. The only people who seem to be scratching their heads are Democrats. Oh, how is this happening? I thought our democracy was at risk, at peril, under attack from the evil orange man. So incredibly stupid. Oh, I don't get why people are so frustrated with our performance over the last 3.5 years. Yeah, no wonder you guys keep talking down to regular voters and treating them as if they're stupid. Things were horrible and you kept saying, Bidenomics is working. Things are the best they've ever been. Meanwhile, people couldn't afford food. And it's always the same thing. It's not like anything's changed. We've been hearing lately about this supposed risk to U.S. milk and meat supply from a bird flu epidemic that's currently affecting cattle. And so the White House was questioned. And once again, of course, the same condescending, out of touch, dismissive nonsense.
What's your current assessment of the risk to the U.S. Milk and meat supply from the bird flu epidemic in cattle?
Yeah, so I know that the Department of Agriculture has been on top of this. I know that they are not seeing any concerns to milk or any of the cattle or the meat that we're consuming. Well, I don't consume meat, but all of you out there.
Well, I don't consume any meat. This has been the dynamic for years. People are sick of it. Yes, Donald Trump is a little rough along the edges, but at least he's a real human being who tells it like it is and understands what it is to be a citizen in the nation. These people who have never worked a day in their lives, these people who don't care how the economy works, who don't care about any of it, they just want to keep taking your tax dollars. They don't care. They don't care at all. And the people are starting to see it. Joe Biden is unifying the country in one thing and one thing alone, and that's resentment towards Joe Biden and these last 3.5 years. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.